Hi, welcome to Valley View. This is Ken Adams, and I'll be hosting this week along with Kim Brock. And this week we're going to have some DJs on our show from KMUZ. We got Dave Duncan and Nate Darnell.
Hi there.
And they're going to talk a little bit about their experience as DJs, how to get involved with KMUZ, and what it's like. So welcome to the show, and thanks for coming on.
Good to be here.
Well, thank you.
So, Nate, how did you get started being a DJ?
That's actually kind of a comical story.
Okay.
It was all by accident, and there was no real intention involved in it. It just kind of happened by, well, perhaps destiny. Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
It was destiny.
I was actually headed over to Willamette University's Exercise Science Lab to go work with Dr. Hong on some of the research that we were pioneering. And I just happened to stop by the Mission Mill Museum, and I got some coffee and had some time to kill. So the bookbinder, who had never been open before, was open that day. So I come from a family that's been involved in technology for years, and I gravitate to the old stuff because it's built like no other and it lasts for centuries, and the new stuff just peters out all the time. So anyone that values the old stuff, I like to talk to. So I just went over and talked to the bookbinder, and we chatted up a little bit, and he said, well, why don't you do like a radio show? I said, well, I might be interested in that. And he said, well, we have a radio studio here in the building. And I said, you're kidding me. Yeah. And he said, no. I said, well, like a real FM channel? He's like, well, we've been working on that for 8 years. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I kind of thought, well, when you get it going, let me know, and we'll talk again. So we parted ways, and a week later he called me, and he said, hey, it's running now.
Oh, wow.
So, and there was orientation, I don't know, perhaps a week later. I think it was it December 17th?
That's when we went on the air,
yeah. Yeah, and that day they said, hey, when do you want to do a show? So I just rattled out a number. I was like, January 24th. And they said, professional,
right? That's what I did.
I know what I'm doing.
And then they pinned it in, and then I said, wow, what did I just do? And from that point forward, it was just baptism by fire. And so I just started doing interviews with individuals in the community, and I just happened to be on right after Dave Duncan.
Now, did you say what your show was?
Yeah, it was at the time it was Willamette Valley Health and Wellness Radio Show, and the problem with that is that nobody could pronounce it. So we had good intentions,
Yes.
And it was recently rebranded New Health Radio, and it's spelled N-U and then Health Radio, and we cover a whole broad spectrum of health-related issues, but predominantly alternative care, because we feel that there's a need to inform the public about those things that aren't considered by Western medicine in general, but are used in foreign countries with great effect.
Right.
So that's kind of how I, excluding my personal background, that's how I kind of stumbled into radio and co-hosting a show. Dave functions as a...
Can I talk about how my show started?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
That's chapter 3 there.
Right.
Chapter 2.
Yeah, chapter 2. All right. So I had been doing Northwest Tech Show as a CCTV show for a couple of years, and it was just like a monthly edit together of Creative Commons videos from across the web, because there's all this really great educational material, and it was not the sort of thing you'd see on TV, but it was great content. So I would do intros and outros from it and edit together my favorite parts. Yeah, I curate it basically.
Cool, that's a great idea.
So I heard about the KMUZ in one of my local blog feeds. I saw that, oh, there's this radio station. They're actually going on the air soon with this. So I got in touch with them. I'd seen some of the fundraisers they've been doing for years.
Years, I know.
Years.
Yes, we had them on the show
struggling.
years ago.
Yeah,
Right,
and boy, what a story! But
Yeah.
you've covered
We
that
covered
with
them right before they
That was
went
a great
on
story,
air.
and I'm really
yeah.
glad that you got a chance to move on to
Afterwards.
the DJ's point of view. But that origin story, like if there's some place where you could go back and see that again, I would highly recommend it because
Okay,
it
we
is
can
quite a
play
tale.
that
But,
again. We'll
yeah,
do
play that again, please, Sam.
Okay.
But so I came in. It was a week before we went on the air. We were actually streaming as an audio stream, and I thought, well, this looks interesting. Same thing. I got in touch with them and got hooked in rather whirlwind style. And I'm like, okay,
Did you name
here's
a
me
date?
and a mic. I guess
Okay.
I'm doing it live, as they say on TV.
Wow.
So that was a challenge. That was a really growth opportunity. I wasn't really one to have any sort of fear of public speaking by and large, but it was a little nerve-wracking because I'm not afraid of public speaking, but I do like to do a good job. And I was really feeling kind of marginal about just doing live spewing off the top of my head for an hour and making it something worth listening to.
Right. That's
And
big.
it was rough. I did eventually get to where I could deal with it, but it still wasn't as good as I was hoping it could be. And then I've had someone, Jim, come in and say, I was applying to the radio station. I wanted to do a tech show, and they told me you're already doing one. So would you be interested in having a co-host? So I said, oh, well, we'll give it a try. And it worked out really well. And then Jim moved. I'm like, great, it's back to me and a mic.
Oh, yeah.
Now we were, Jim and I were scheduled neighbors with Nate's show. In fact, we'd had him on as a guest because we found out he had this great tech background. And so we had a couple of episodes where we had a 3-person show. So I was like, Nate, I've seen, and by the way, his content was incredibly well researched, and I just love the crispness of his voice, the way he delivered things. But there were some points I could see he was struggling too, where he'd just be like reading a research paper, and I thought
It's not a conversational
I
topic.
thought,
No,
well,
it's
we
not.
bartered him.
It's
We
either a really
bartered
dry
him.
monologue.
We barter him. We're,
Yeah.
we're like one right after the other. Why don't you come in early and be my co-host, and I'll stay late and be your co-host, and then we'll have someone who's from a different point of view to bounce those ideas off of, and we'll get a lot more dynamic going. Oh, worked.
Worked
Well,
Yeah,
good.
we're just like two one-legged pigeons that lean on each other in the park.
No problem. Okay, that's my leg. You go.
Well, it is kind of a difficult thing trying to match up. And like being on for an hour.
Well, we're on for 2 straight.
Yeah, but
Wow,
I mean,
yeah,
but
that's
being
right.
on by yourself for an hour
Yeah, that's
can
right.
be taxing.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you don't, like sometimes you think you've prepared enough material, but you find out toward the end you don't have quite enough because maybe you were speaking too quickly and going through
Oh,
things
yes.
too quickly. And so now what do you do?
Great
Because now you're out of
Yeah, great
Great
dangers.
dangers in the deep end by yourself. I was saying, you know what you need? Buddy system radio.
Yeah.
Well, you
Right.
really do, and I think the thing that was really fortunate with Dave and I is that we share a really similar tech background, but we don't solve problems in the same way. So oftentimes, we'll have conflicting viewpoints, and it creates this tension that everybody loves to listen to.
Like, hey, we're
Because
this.
he'll
He's
he'll
like,
he'll
yeah.
lob remarks at me. Exactly. I mean, sometimes just like, well, look,
that
what's
works.
what's the end game? Do you want it to work or not? Well, I don't want it to work. Hammers are great. Turn it off. Right? You didn't say you wanted it to work again.
You want to put out the electrical fire?
Right.
Just yank the plug out.
And I think that's what people started listening to was this kind of banter that Dave and I would have, and alone,
Like car talk kind of.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's car talk for tech and then car talk for health.
Right.
alone, people were like, "I don't want to listen to you." But then we got together, and then they're like,
that's funny.
"Oh, those guys are great." And now we've got listeners from the East Coast. We've even got listeners in foreign countries.
Nice.
By the way, what time is your show on and which days?
Oh, so Wednesday from noon to 1 for tech show.
Okay.
And then
And then 1 to 2.
2. Oh, okay. So
Wednesdays,
if
noon
people
to
are
2.
interested in getting in on the new Car Talk, now they know where to go.
yeah, and it's that's 88.5 FM out of Turner. And you can also get the web stream at kmuz.org.
That sounds better on my radio.
And the thing we've been recommending to people also, because everyone, it seems like everyone has a smartphone now, and that's something you're carrying
you
around.
can get it
so-
on your phone.
Yeah, the TuneIn radio app is free, and you just search for KMUZ.
Then you've got like a little
Yeah.
transistor radio.
It's amazing.
That's
yeah, we've
so
recreated
cool.
the FM radio.
That's
Nice.
nice.
Yeah, but you search for KMUZ, you put it on your favorites, and now it's like you got to dedicate. And Salem FM's out there too. So
Well, and that's how we have listeners from afar as well. You know,
Right.
and obviously our FM, transmitter is about the power of a light bulb. So
half a light bulb.
yeah,
Very dim bulb.
Really?
yeah.
And it's got
but-
height. So
Right.
Dimple.
Tallest point in
Tall
Marion
dim
County.
bulb.
But the internet projects.
Ah, yes,
true.
that's true.
So
everywhere.
maybe I could pick it up at the dog park, whereas I can't pick up the signal from the dog park.
Yeah, yeah. If
You
you,
know.
if you can get a cell signal,
Yeah.
a data cell signal, I should say.
Oh, okay.
So
I know
it's a
some
data.
places where
So you'd be charged for data.
It depends on
probably?
your
if
plan.
you've got a plan like that, yeah,
Okay.
I got an unlimited one. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, several places they're like they have technically unlimited plans, and I won't specify brands, but they have technically unlimited. What they do is they throttle a little bit after
Mm-hmm.
5 gigs, but that's plenty if all you're doing is listening to audio. I mean, you can watch a
Right.
lot of YouTube videos before you run it over 5 gigs.
When I run Pandora, I get throttled though.
Really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if that's going to get you, then it's going to get you because
Okay.
it'd be the same kind of thing.
Okay.
It's a 128 kilobit MP3
Mm.
for all you tech people out there.
Okay.
Well, I should also mention that Dave is the trainer for KMUZ, so anybody that's
That's right.
interested in getting their own show together. And Dave and I had a conversation about doing a
I recruited
show.
you.
That's right.
So coming soon.
It's
Yeah.
coming soon. And, because I think that's something that's really kind of missing in the community. I mean, CCTV does that,
Yeah.
and KMUZ does that, but there's very few other sources that are located here
Yeah.
in Salem that talk about
It's a shallow
Salem-type
pool,
issues.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all the TV stations, the broadcast TV stations, are up in Portland
Or Eugene, yeah.
or Eugene, and they'll come in here, maybe cover what's going on down at the state capitol, and if there's some murder and mayhem going on, they might cover Salem as well. But
Or
I mean, for-
chickens that
The
fall
chickens
out.
in the yard. Yeah.
yeah. Well, but I mean, for the
Chicken
most
crisis
part,
in Salem, my friend.
yeah. But for the most
Not
part, they
chickens.
don't cover
Go chicken.
issues here in Salem.
Yeah.
And this is the opportunity for people that want to talk about, say, the state of the sidewalks here in Salem, because that's
Yeah.
one of the things I really noticed when I first moved
Well,
here.
and something I should emphasize really is KMUZ is trying to be the Mid-Willamette Valley's community radio station because, after KBOO, there's pretty much nothing for a long ways.
Right.
So, and because of the pre-existing antenna locations for existing FCC licenses, we have a really odd-shaped pattern. Like, even though we're in Turner, just a little bit outside of Salem, we actually have our best signal strength into Albany, or at least more so than Salem. But it's all these small communities around.
Oh,
that
like
really-
Jefferson and Staten and
so
Sublimity and
the
those
ones
areas.
that really.
They
Now talk
probably
about
appreciate
not
it.
having any local
Yeah.
media, right? Salem
Right.
doesn't have any local media. Let's talk about all the rural places.
Mm-hmm.
So we really want to get more people in from rural areas. Of course, the studio being in Salem, that's going to be who it drew in at first, but that's not ultimately what we want to be about.
Now, is it correct that they don't broadcast to Kaiser, or you do? Do you make it
No,
to
we don't.
Kaiser?
It's not like cable where they just cut it. Oh, they don't cut it. We cut off.
Okay,
here.
that's CCTV
Yeah,
that
that's
doesn't go to
CCTV.
Kaiser.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that has to do with the way it's funded.
Okay.
Kaiser decided not to pay into the franchise fee,
I
so
see.
therefore.
Right.
But people in Kaiser can hear
Yeah,
the
on the
KMUZ.
web or on
Okay.
Yeah, and regular radio signal. I think we've tested it. Depending on your car,
Mm-hmm.
we can receive it almost to the Woodburn Outlet Mall.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
it starts to bleed
And
off
the hills.
about half a mile before the Woodburn Outlet Mile.
And then
Outlet
Hills
Mall.
of Newburgh. Yeah,
I see.
there's
I have
signal.
a question, a technical question. Is that an FM station or AM station?
It's an FM. Yeah.
And what is the difference? Because
Well,
I was
frequency
just
modulation
yeah.
versus amplitude modulation. So one you're altering the strength of your signal, and that'd be like a light bulb that was pulsing on and off. And frequency modulation has to do with changing frequencies at a regular. So if you can follow the movement of that frequency, there is no noise, right? It's either moving to the left or it's moving to the right. There's no like, well, I'm not really sure what frequency it's on. You know
Mm-hmm.
what frequency you've got. So.
Oh, I see.
So it's a very high fidelity
Why
way of
do-
encoding a signal.
Okay, why would someone listen to an AM station? Like I was doing that the other day. I just
Well, it's
plugged
just-
it in on my radio and I just started listening. It sounded clear.
It's an easier technology and it's not as challenged.
Is it
from,
cheaper or something for the?
Commercially, it is.
Well, usually they're the big stations. Like, actually, I can get, when I go to work, I work nights, and I can pick up KGO and and KNBR out of San Francisco. I can listen to the Giants ball game on the way to work
On AM?
on AM.
Well, this is not my field of
Wow.
expertise, so I don't know the history of the reason why AM was used over FM. But perhaps one transmits farther than the other, and
Farther.
perhaps maybe they were categorized differently. It's similar to the way the internet, as we progressed with that, we tried to reserve .com for commerce, we tried to reserve .org for nonprofit organizations, we tried to reserve .gov for government. I don't know, because I'm not familiar with the genuine history of radio. I don't know if that was maybe done
I
as
think
well.
it's a legalistic kind of, it has to do with competition for, well, you can't, by its nature, you can't do a stereo signal in AM. It's going to be
That's
mono.
what it was,
So
yes.
you
That's right.
get better sound quality on FM for music.
Okay.
Okay, AM lends itself to talk
Talk
shows,
shows.
sports
Okay.
shows, those kinds of things.
I see.
Or
And the
anything
signal
with
goes
money. Right?
Money.
So
Right.
that's
And the
that's
signal
your
goes
nice
a long
neighborhood.
way.
Well, that's what I was
And-
getting alluding
yeah.
to, is that for a logistical
And
purpose.
I know that, like, I used to be able to listen to Oklahoma stations when I was traveling through the West. You know,
Wow.
because they'll
Ham
have big
Ham
ones.
radios are AM.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using
And-
amplitude
Okay,
modulation.
thanks.
But generally, your FM signal is not going to go
Informative.
that far.
Okay.
I mean, if it goes
That
100
makes sense.
miles, you're doing pretty good.
Like when we get the Portland stations. they're
Yeah,
going
well, I
about
mean, yeah,
50
we
or
can
60
easily get
miles.
that. And like when I lived in Sacramento, I
And
could
somewhere-
sometimes get some
Somewhere
Bay
the
Area
station
stations.
engineer is probably chewing on his pillow, and it's like, that's not how it works. So we're straying a little field from what we know.
But
But,
yeah,
That's right.
but I mean, that's the basic difference.
I wondered that.
And,
yeah, from a user point of view, it's one's mono, and it can come in various strengths and have a lot of static, and it has frequency shifts and all that stuff. FM, it's either you pretty much, if you get it or not. You can have some static, but it's the frequency, the sound isn't going to change pitch depending on how you tune it.
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool.
So now you have a full list of programs that go on 24 hours, or
Yeah,
you
that's
have
interesting.
openings?
So,
or,
we do have openings, yeah. So if you go to kmuz.org, which is our website, and you can listen live off a link there, you can also click on the schedule link, which links to the service we use to keep track of our music called Spinitron. And it's a kind of a week at a glance grid, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then the times down the side. And where you see a block written in with the name of a show, and you mouse over that, it'll give you a description of the show. And that's the normal schedule for that thing. And we kind of had to tweak it a little bit where something is like, oh, this show is on once a month, but there's no way in the schedule to indicate that. So we just put in parentheses, fourth Sunday or something like that. But mostly we try to go on
A daily.
every week. Yeah, every week is the same schedule for the most part, with just a couple of exceptions.
Now, you
And
both-
that's where you find those.
And you both have 1-hour shows. Is that the normal?
For a talk show, it kind of is, but that's not really a hard and fast rule. You apply to the station through the Be a DJ link off the kmuz.org
Right.
site, and you put in a proposal for what kind of show you'd like to do, and maybe some preferences on what times you'd like to cover. With hopefully having looked at the grid and seen that you're not like, I really need this time that Ken Cartwright has. It's like, well,
Yeah, I
too
don't
bad that
think
Ken
so.
Cartwright's got it.
Right.
Well, there's probably a lot of openings from, like, say, midnight
Yeah.
to 3.
Well, anytime
Right.
we actually have the late night morning show from midnight to 2 a.m. on Wednesday evenings, Thursday mornings. So, and that was a show that the guy Dave Morris wanted to do that time
Oh,
slot.
okay.
He was like, yeah, I want to do this thing for people that are working night shift. I want to have something for them. And I was like, right on, man. Good thought.
Is that the only night of the week that you have something after midnight?
Yeah, that is.
A
Oh
live
no,
show.
wait. I should say no. Day of Doom, our heavy metal show, is on Fridays from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. on Saturday morning. So
But you
that-
still have programming going
yeah.
on.
Anytime you see a gap in the programming, it's not like nothing's on. That's when we go to automation, and we have a music library that we play random songs out of, and also insert the legal IDs and promos for the various shows. So it's yeah.
So
we're
there's
gonna
something
update that.
on all the time.
Well, there's something on all the time, but
Right.
really our preference is we want things to be live as much as possible.
Yeah.
We want to be that station that tells you that there's a that there's a traffic jam on commercial.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you haven't cleaned this already, there's a wide variety of programming on KMUZ, very
Right,
wide.
yes.
Everything from jazz
Day
to
of
heavy
Doom,
metal to talk shows.
Radio
To
to-
the
Exotica.
Hawaiian one, the
Yeah, Radio Exotica.
Yes, we're
Exotica,
quite
yeah.
the motley crew.
yes.
Yeah, the girl from Ipanema show.
Yeah, the girl from Ipanema. She was,
And Auntie Vivua.
yeah,
They are
Yeah, they are
incredible.
great. They were
They-
on our show once.
They
were
covered
so funny.
they covered for Up with People show on Monday evening when the DJ was gone, and so it was like
Oh.
Radio Exotica too. And they're
Great.
just like, well, now they're doing their same personas, right? But they're
Mm-hmm.
like, and now let's just do this, whatever music we can find in the back room,
Right.
just stranded on the mainland, right? And it's
Yeah,
like,
no.
okay, yeah, good,
So-
good scheme.
So I take it you enjoy doing these shows.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
a nice outlet for getting, well, like when you're talking about health, that's a subject that, a number of people are going to be interested in. And tech,
Do
too.
you have a body?
Yes.
Yeah,
Might
you
be
might
interested
be
in maintaining
interested.
it.
And
Do
in
you have
this
any
day and
gadgets?
age,
You might be interested in how they work.
Yeah.
that's quite often a big issue for a lot of people. I know my wife is kind of a technophobe, and I don't always explain
So am I.
things the best to her.
Yeah,
Call
right.
himself the Amish
But you
astronaut.
face your fears,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because, I have ways of explaining things that certain people get, but she doesn't, when I try to explain
Right.
the tech terms
Well,
to her.
the main thing is to start off every sentence where you're going to do a lot of gobbledygook with, look, it's simple. You just,
You just, yeah.
Well, and I think that's the beauty in the way Dave and I can describe. I think because we spent so many years working with people in technology,
Yeah.
we had to learn two different languages. One is a really technical side, and one is the layman speak.
we speak binary to each other, and then we go,
Yeah, exactly. And you really
broken.
you have to learn how to communicate in ways that are impactful to the average listener, where they can wrap their mind around an image, and that's not easy to do per se. Alone, it's really difficult. But Dave and I seem to have this way of back and forth. When I start to pause because I'm hunting for something, he has a quick quip that he can throw in and get it started, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's
So.
great.
That's really been fantastic.
You guys are really
But-
tuned into each other.
But I'm not afraid of silence either. That's part of what live radio is about. It's like when you stop to think,
Really?
it's okay. You just,
It is
you're
okay?
taking a moment.
Yeah, it's funny because I've worked in the data processing field for over 40 years, and somebody one time asked me what I do, and I said, I'm a translator. I translate between the technical and non-technical.
Yeah.
And that is actually something that's kind of valuable for a lot of companies because you get a lot of tech speak and people don't understand what's possible and what's going on.
I would say that
It's
it's
a shame.
probably, in today's environment, that is the most important position in the company, is being that person that can communicate with both tribes.
That's why they started having CTOs,
Yeah.
chief technical officers for
You know,
companies.
and those are, Jen, for those individuals that are looking for careers, those are the ones that pay the most, okay?
Chief
You
technical
don't have to
officer.
know all of the technical things. The way a businessman explained it to me one time, who's very successful, he said, look, I buy engineers, okay? They know what they're to do. I know how to make money. And that's the way he explained it. And he said, so
I don't want to talk to the engineers.
yes, I
Right,
simply
I just buy
provide
them.
them with a framework, and then I tell them what needs to be done. And and then I find some guy in the middle that can kind of like keep me informed about what's going on. That's generally the CTO, the person that can speak both languages.
Are they doing a good job or are they messing up? They messed up a little bit.
And that's kind of like being a good leader. You don't need to
Hit 'em with a
know.
cattle prod a little bit then.
Yeah, you don't need to know the technical. You don't need to know how to do everything technical that everybody beneath you. It helps if you understand it, and those are really the best leaders. But you don't have to be the best at doing it. You can find people that can do it better than you. You just have to understand the overall long-term goal and be a good leader and keep everybody on track.
Yeah.
And that is a very important function no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Wow. Well, if somebody wanted to get on a radio show and they didn't really know what they should do on the radio show, do you guys have coaching like that?
Well, okay, so here's kind of the anatomy of a new DJ. It's like first you hear that there's a radio station and there's an opportunity for you to be on the air. This is happening now.
It's exciting, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So then you go to be a DJ and you look at the very intimidating form asking, how much technical assistance are you going to need? How are you going to be serving these needs of the community? Blah blah blah. It's not as scary as it looks. It really is about making you think about those questions. Then you submit the application, and someone will get back to you and say, okay, we have an orientation session coming up at such and such a date, and we just sit down for 2.5 hours, and we go over what it means to be a community radio station operating under the regulations of the FCC, and make sure that each and every person who opens up that mic understands exactly how fragile it can be, that it needs to be all of us being diligent about following the FCC regs, because there's not like one set of regs for corporate radio and another set of regs for a mom and pop community radio station. It's the same regs.
And the same fines.
But like,
He said,
right.
So-
But being silent for a few seconds and stuff like that, that's not part of the regulations.
No, that's not
No.
FCC regulations.
Okay, so-
Things
so-
like no obscenities. You know, a lot of people go,
Naturally.
yeah, it's the 7 words you can't say. It's like, well, that's a funny comedy bit, but that's not actually the law. They haven't actually said what the words are you can't say. There's just sort of a case history that would give you a sense. And it basically comes down to don't do anything that's wrong for your community. Within your community, you know, is that a problem?
And we're talking about the
we talk about it
greater
for 2 hours.
community. It's
Yes.
not just the people you know. You know.
Exactly. It's anyone because,
Does that make it different in Salem than Portland, for instance? Or?
well, it would be the rural areas, right?
Right.
You know, very conservative. They used to hear Catholic radio stations out of Portland and Eugene, and now they're hearing us. So
Well, still there's a little bit of crust. We used to joke, at least I used to joke, you know, people said, where do we find you? And I said, well, turn the dial down to the Hail Marys, and then turn it up 1 notch, and that's where we are.
Hail Marys. That's fun.
yeah, there's a certain band that's occupied by the nonprofits. So the lower end of the FMs.
Nonprofits,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, so you get into the 90s
Secular.
and such, and you're into the commercial territory. So
Now, do you have regular like news programming or weather programming, or
not weather, but we do have some great news shows like I like In the Arena on Tuesday mornings at 7 to 9. That's the only 2-hour talk show we've got, and it's sort of talking about local politics and civic awareness and all this. And then we've got Melanie in the morning from 9 to 10. You met Melanie on your show here.
What does
And,
she talk about again?
her shtick is everyone's got a story that's interesting if you just listen. And so she has lived in Salem for a long time, and she's networked very well. And she's very good at bringing in people, and in very sort of non-threatening way. I mean, she's not like, you know, all right, talk out, tell us what you did on the evening of the 5th. You know, I mean, she's just very mellow, and she brings out these really interesting stories out of people. It's really good content. So I'm really jealous
That's
of
neat.
that ability to connect with people and pull that sort of stuff. I want to do more interviews, but I haven't been doing as many as I should. I've done a few phone interviews for the most part.
and that's another aspect of doing a show. You can invite people in
Yeah.
to do an interview, you know, live right there on the air or via the phone.
Yes. Oh, but I should finish up on being a DJ, how that works. So because we've got a very short period of time, it's about you just learning overall what the rules are. Then we set you up with an existing DJ so you can get
Oh, good.
one-on-one chance
Mentoring,
to
yeah.
practice.
Okay.
And then the first time you go on the air by yourself, supposedly, you know, someone who's experienced is sitting there in the corner available to help you out. So it's a very non-threatening process.
That's awesome.
And it's kind of eased into.
You're eased into it, yeah.
That
Right.
sounds
Yeah. No
great.
point is there like a hard line where it's like, okay.
Although
you
Dave
have
and
to
I
do it
just
right now.
dove in face first.
Right,
That's
we were one
us.
of the early
That's
ones.
us. That's how we
yeah.
like it. You know?
That's how you like
It's like buzzsaw, yeah.
Well, I want to thank Dave and Nate for coming down and talking about KMUZ, and I'd like to welcome you to watch Valley View next week.